Rumors had been spreading for weeks in Washington about a plot so audacious it promised to snatch the fragile peace from the nation's hands. It was the spring of 1865. The Civil War was, by all appearances, over. General Lee had surrendered at Appomattox on April 9th. Yet in the capital, whispers traced a darker plan to murder the leaders who would guide Reconstruction and, by their deaths, revive the Confederacy's fading cause. John Wilkes Booth was an actor and a Confederate zealot who came to believe that killing Abraham Lincoln would avenge the South and ignite resistance. What began as talk of kidnapping in earlier months hardened into a broader conspiracy, one that aimed not merely at the president, but at decapitating the federal government. Booth recruited a small circle. Lewis Powell, also called Payne, assigned to assassinate Secretary of State William Seward, George Atzerodt, tasked with killing Vice President Andrew Johnson, David Herold, to guide escapes, and other sympathizers whose meetings centered at boarding houses and in back rooms around the city, including the boarding house tied to Mary Surratt. On the night of April 14, 1865, the plan moved from paper to deadly action. Lincoln, attending a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theatre, was seated in a private box with the president's wife. Booth entered the box, shot Lincoln in the back of the head, and leapt to the stage. He allegedly cried, "Sic semper tyrannis," echoing the cry of a Roman tyrannicide, and slipped away into a waiting world. The president did not survive the wound. He died the next morning, April 15th. At the same hour, Powell forced his way into Secretary Seward's home, where the secretary, still recovering from a carriage accident, lay in bed. Powell stabbed Seward repeatedly, maimed several members of the household and a guard, but failed to kill him. Atzerodt, assigned to murder the vice president, balked. He spent the night drinking in a nearby hotel and never reached Johnson's room. The coordinated strike had been imperfect, but its central blow had succeeded. Booth fled with David Herold through Maryland, across the Potomac, and into Virginia. He broke his leg in the jump from Lincoln's box. His injury and the violence of escape would seal his fate. On the way, he received shelter and medical aid, most controversially from Dr. Samuel Mudd, who set Booth's fractured leg in a Maryland farmhouse. The manhunt was immediate and relentless. Soldiers, detectives, and a wounded nation combed the countryside. 11 days after Lincoln's shooting on April the 26th, Booth was cornered at Richard Garrett's farm near Port Royal, Virginia. Surrounded in a tobacco barn, he refused to surrender. Under orders to take him alive, Sergeant Boston Corbett shot Booth through the neck. The assassin died shortly thereafter. David Herold surrendered. The nation watched every development with morbid fascination. The government responded with forceful legal action. A military commission tried 8 accused conspirators. The tribunal exposed the plot's network. Mary Surratt, whose boarding house had hosted meetings, Lewis Powell, the violent attacker of Seward, George Atzerodt, and David Herold. On July 7, 1865, 4 conspirators, Mary Surratt, Lewis Powell, George Atzerodt, and David Herold, were hanged. The verdicts and the use of a military commission rather than civilian courts stirred controversy then and since. 3 others, Samuel Mudd, Samuel Arnold, and Michael O'Loughlin, were sentenced to life imprisonment. Edmund Spangler, a stagehand who had aided Booth's escape, received 6 years of hard labor. Mary Surratt's execution, the first of a woman by the federal government, remains a flashpoint for debates over justice and due process. The conspiracy's goal to remove Lincoln and his cabinet and thereby unbalance the Union failed in its larger aim. Instead of collapsing the federal government, the assassination galvanized it. Lincoln became a martyr. Reconstruction proceeded under different hands and with new iron will. The trial and punishment of the conspirators left unresolved questions of culpability, degree of planning, and the proper limits of wartime justice. Decades later, historians still sift testimony, letters, and trial records. They reconstruct meetings in boarding houses and whispered promises of reward and glory. The Lincoln conspiracy is a study in extremes: the political desperation of a defeated cause, the fanaticism of a single man, and the dizzying, often messy, justice meted out by a nation still reeling. It stands as one of the defining crimes of 19th century North America, a conspiracy that nearly tore a new republic apart and, paradoxically, bound it closer together.